Good evening. Welcome to the Wallingford Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for Monday, February 14th, 2022. Can I ask everyone to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everyone. First order of business, I would just like to let everybody know that that the data center special meeting date and time is April 7th at 7 p.m. in the Chamber of Councils. So if you're here for that, we will not be presenting on that tonight. Quick roll call. We have to my very far right, James Hines. Next to James Hines is Jeff Cohan. Next to him is James Fitzsimmons. To my left is Steve Allenson, and to his left is David Parent, and I am J.P. Benoit. To my very far left is our recording secretary, Cheryl Ann Tooby, and our town planner, Kevin Pagini. So, welcome everyone. First order of business is consideration of minutes for the January 10th, 2022. Do I have a motion for approval?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes from the
January 10th.
January 10th meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I hear a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
I will abstain. I was not there. So thank you. Motion carries. Let's move on to the public hearing, a proposed text amendment moratorium on warehousing and or manufacturing in the Watershed Protection Overlay District, Planning and Zoning, application 901-22. Can I ask the secretary to read in the correspondence?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Number 90122, zoning regulation text amendment. To add new section 6.35 to enact a moratorium on warehousing / manufacturing uses within the Watershed Protection Overlay District. And I don't have anything else.
Okay. Before we get started, I'd just like to ask Commissioner Jamie Hines if you would be on this application.
Thank you.
So I believe we've gotten the correspondence on this. Kevin, would you like to just update on this?
Yeah, we just have the notices that were sent to the city clerk, City of Meriden, and the regional planning agency, the South Central Regional Council of Governments. That was dated 1/18/2022.
All right. Do I have any commissioners with any comments or questions?
Mr. Chairman, just to clarify,
Yes,
I believe the documents and correspondence that Mr. Pagini was referencing was read into the record at our last meeting.
Correct.
So there's just no new documents to be read into the record, which is why my desk was clear.
Correct.
Thank you.
You are correct. Thank you, Commissioner Allenson. Yes, Mr. Hines.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The only question I had is the limitation up to May 31st, 2022. I was just wondering what the theory was on that, setting that date. I mean, hopefully we would have something in before then, but I was just wondering, what your thinking was on that.
We just wanted to not give too much time to get them done, but enough time in case. We could always revoke it if needed, if the regulations are passed.
Okay, so if we were to go beyond May 31st, would we have to then amend section 6.35? Would that be an actual amendment to that? provision?
Yes, you'd have to extend it. So you'd have to vote to extend the moratorium.
And then what happens, let's say we amend the regs before May 31st, 2022. What happens to section 6.35? Do we actually have to take action on that afterwards to revoke that at some point?
Yes, it would be concurrently, so if you were to, say, adopt the regulations in the same meeting, you can actually revoke the moratorium in the same meeting as well.
Yeah. I guess the only comment I would have then is, you know, I sort of wonder whether we need that date in there. I think it provides us more flexibility if we don't set the date than if we do. But that's my only, I think that's my only comment on that.
Yes, Mr. Fitzsimmons.
Thank you. Following up on what Commissioner Heim said, I dug out the reg book. On page 217 was the medical marijuana moratorium, which did have a date specific. Let me be brief. For those of you who know me, it's going to be hard. I support this. I support this because I'm all about making sure we take the time necessary to come up with revised regulations regarding warehouse manufacturing uses in the watershed protection overlay district. I would like to be very clear. I don't know if this is where Mr. Heim was going. I will not be in favor of extending this. This is not good. This is not fair to the landowners. It's not fair to the town that the town staff, and this is collective, water, sewer, planning and zoning, legal, everyone that's been involved in this, we have been talking about this regulation and these changes too long. The town planner and I have had this conversation. We're citizen commissioners. We're not staff, but we're just coming out of the pandemic. We're just coming out of this, and it's just not fair if somebody has something on the table that we're going to say, yep, now you got to wait. You know, we don't want to lose opportunities in this town. So I will support this evening because it does allow the time for the town staff to present the commission with something that will address what we've been talking about for some time. But I want to be very clear on the record. I would not be in favor of supporting any extension of this. And I do hope it goes the way Mr. Heim thought and it would end sooner.
Thank you. Any other commissioners with any comments before I go out to public? No? Anybody from the public? Yes. Just name and address, please.
Thank you. Adelaide Kopfer, 35 Whiffletree Road. I also support this moratorium. I am one of the about 39,000 customers of the Water and Sewer Division, actually 5 of us in my family. I think our drinking water supply is essential, really, and we have to take everything we can to keep that clean and clear and available for everybody. Wallingford Water and Sewer Division, I think, is doing an outstanding job maintaining our facilities and our equipment, repairing and replacing and upgrading, even in the entire wastewater treatment plant. I was going to thank them, but I don't know if anyone is here. The only thing I wanted to say to that part, you can replace equipment, you cannot replace the water. Once it's contaminated, we're doomed, because that's our drinking water. So this, for me, really is personal and very essential. My question would be, what is the status of the proposed zoning change from October?
The regulations were sent to the commission as a receipt for this month, so they will be at public hearing in March.
In March, thank you.
Correct.
I do hope that this moves forward, but until then, I really hope that you will approve the moratorium, because runoff is a big issue, and we all know that warehousing always has a huge parking lot and a huge impervious area and a lot of runoff. So this is a big issue, and it will only get worse with more storms coming and less regular snow, more ice, more salt, all that. Everybody knows about it, I think. I really just want you to think about it and approve the moratorium and move the zoning amendment forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, gentleman to my right.
Bob DeMayo, 14 Marie Lane. Just to reiterate a little bit of what Mr. Fitzsimmons says, I've been following this. I've been involved with this for over 2 years. There was a public hearing almost 2 years ago, 2 public hearings. Tom Talbot was, interim planner at the time. You guys had text amendments in front of you. It was put on hold in January. The mayor asked you to put it on hold. He said he was going to take 3 months, going to have town staff look at it. 3 months went by, it came in September, and thank you to Mr. Pagini, because I think he's done a nice job rallying with Allison, bringing a decent, pretty quality document together, and you guys looked at that in October of last year. We had a workshop at the Hubcap. There wasn't a ton of input. There was some. We're now 5 months later, and we still don't have it approved. I understand data centers were a big deal and kind of were part of the derailment, but this town has been vulnerable for 5 months. The watershed's been vulnerable. We had this conversation during Amazon, the politics of who said what, when, and well, here we are again. 5 months have gone by. I don't know who's responsible for it collectively, but the town was at risk. So I think whoever came in and suggested this moratorium, to say, hold on, hang on, nothing's coming in until we get these changes in place, because I would suggest the changes, the broad, writ large changes for the IX, I-5 are more impactful than the data centers. And I think the data centers has thrown this off balance. So I would ask you to just, if need be, consider bifurcating this, putting the zone changes in, and then you can, kind of pick and plug in the data centers when they're done, if that's possible. We can't let this go on much longer. It's way beyond time. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Young gentleman in the back there.
Good evening, gentlemen. Hank Baum, EDC. We concur with Mr. Fitzsimmons. We're in favor of the moratorium, but we would implore this commission not to extend it any further for all the reasons that have been said. That's the position of the EDC, and I just wanted to tell you that tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else before I bring it back to the gentleman over here?
Thomas Rink, 675 Williams Road. 99% of the interest is warehouse right now. As far as the data centers go, the banks and the financing are they're playing games for some reason. If you guys can look into that, that'd be helpful. The lawyers are not much better. As far as watershed, I used to reconstruct wetlands with the soil scientist that did that for the Indians down at Foxwoods. You guys should look at that, because I saw a Google picture of Spring Lake with the algae blooms, and I think you guys might be missing the ball on that. I don't know if you should be looking at it. Might be looking at it from that point of view. With soil scientists, recons. I don't know if they still do that. I don't know. I've been out of it for 30 years. So. But right now, most of the interest is warehouse, 99%. Data centers, they're approaching me for seller financing, which is, strange, risky. But, yeah, other than that, that's it.
Thank you. Any other comments on the regulations? If not,
Adelaide Kopfer again, sorry. If I can piggyback on my previous question, if there is a specific reason for the holdup with the proposed change. I remember I think it was last year, when the mayor had serious legal and whatnot concerns. Is there any similar action expected for that? Or what exactly caused it to go so long? Because as the other speaker had said, this has been going on for far too long.
Well, a lot of it was the fact that data centers were included in the original changes, so those went out to public hearings separately, and then there was kind of a gray area as to if we can do the other changes without those, so it got held up for a little while. But now we kind of know that we have a special meeting for data centers, so we have a better picture of the other regulation changes at this point.
You said the public meeting for this zoning amendment is in March?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else before I pull it back in? All right. Any other commissioners have anything to add or any action?
Would you like a motion to close the public hearing?
Yes, I would. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing for the proposed text amendment, section 6.35, moratorium on warehousing and/or manufacturing in the watershed protection overlay district.
Do I hear a second? Second. Starting with Mr. Hines.
Yes to approve.
Yes.
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 And yes. Motion carries. How about a motion on the application, the resolution?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the moratorium on warehousing and/or manufacturing users watershed protection overlay district zoning text amendment to add section 6.35 to the Wallingford zoning regulations to enact a moratorium on warehousing and/or manufacturing uses in the watershed protection overlay district as proposed in language entitled Moratorium on Warehousing and/or Manufacturing Uses in the Watershed Protection Overlay District dated 1/18/22 to allow the commission and staff to review and revise the proposed regulation changes that were workshopped in October 2021.
Thank you. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Voting starting with Mr. Hines.
Yes to approve.
Cohan?
Yes.
Fitzsimmons?
Yes.
Allenson?
Yes.
And yes, motion passes. Thank you very much. On to our old business, site plan, self-storage facility, South Colony 1074 LLC, 1074 South Colony Road, application 220-21. If I could ask the applicant to come up and have the secretary read in the minutes correspondence that we've received.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have an interdepartmental referral from our fire marshal. Date received, October 15th, 2021. We have an interdepartmental referral from our environmental planner. Date of receipt, October 13th, 2021. Correspondence from our town planner to South Colony 1074 LLC, dated 10/20/2021. Correspondence from Attorney Jim Laughlin to the Planning and Zoning Commission, dated November 3rd, 2021. An inter-office memorandum from Eric Kruger to Kevin Pagini, Town Planner, dated November 3rd, 2021. Memorandum from Aaron O'Hare, Environmental Planner, to Kevin Pagini, Town Planner, date of receipt January 24th, 2022. And a revised site plan, date of receipt February 9th, 2022. And the original application and original site plan, which I don't have the date on. That's the revised one. I think there was an original one in the file. Oh, no.
It was 9/28/21, I believe.
9/28/21. Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Pass it on
Mr.
to you.
Thank you, Mr. Benoit. I'm Lachlan, Jim Lachlan. My office is on North Main Street here in town with Christopher Giuliano, whose office is on Main Street in Yalesville. On behalf of CubeSmart, application for a new self-storage facility, 721 units, where Zandri Stillwood used to be. Recently, it's been self-storage. CubeSmart would come in and renovate what's there already, shine it up nice, and add a new 90,000 square foot building, 3 stories, a 30,000 square footprint. It would be state-of-the-art, climate-controlled, both climate-controlled and non-climate controlled units, 3 stories, an elevator, plenty of parking. We're withdrawing from the regulated wetlands area, decreasing impervious surface by some 17,000 square feet, reactivating a vegetated area, and discharge, runoff into Wharton Brook will be much improved as a result. The proposed application is fully compliant with bulk restrictions as well as use. We approached wetlands, who gave approval with customary conditions. We also approached the Zoning Board of Appeals for a variance relative to section 66.3 of your regulation. That regulation has to do with squaring up any new buildings to Route 5, as well as having the main entrance to the building facing Route 5. We asked for the variance for several reasons, and it was granted. If it had to square up with Route 5 and have the main entrance facing Route 5, this building would have been less accessible for customers. Its handicap spot would have had to been relocated further away from the front entrance. And as a result of this hardship, the variance was granted. Also keep in mind that the new building will be 200 feet back from Route 5 and off to the left behind other buildings. And so it really was not pertinent, this regulation that had been put in place, and another reason for it being granted. We met with staff. As always, I enjoy working with them. I actually look forward to going to meet with them in their place, in their offices. We responded to their comments, as well as to comments from Allison Kapuscinski at Engineering. The results are revised plans to January 27, 2022, which is a lighting plan. Christopher Giuliano has assured me it says what lighting plans are supposed to say. Very difficult plan to read. And then there was also updated plans for traffic flow and signage as well. Other department comments are unremarkable, and conditions that they suggest are all customary in their practice. In addition to improving, the continued improvement of this area along Route 5, please keep in mind we are also helping the regulated area and the floodplain by pulling away, improving the runoff onto Route 5, and reviving a vegetated area. So those are my summary remarks. The meat of the presentation now is with Mr. Giuliano.
Thank you. I'm going to go up and I will go through the boards that I have here tonight. And again, for the record, my name is Christopher Giuliano. I'm a licensed land surveyor and professional engineer with the firm of Giuliano Associates, maintaining an office at 405 Main Street in Yalesville. Okay. So I'm going to start with the existing conditions, which we did an ALTA survey as part of this project. And for those that don't know, we typically do what's called a property and topographic survey, but with large commercial properties, we do what's called the ALTA survey, which basically is a land title survey, national standards. Basically, people refer to this as the Cadillac of surveys. A lot more detail, a lot more goes into it, a lot more exposure. But For orientation purposes, South Colony Road is on the bottom of the sheet. This is Route 5. Over on the left side is Northfield Road, which we do have access to as well. We actually have 3 points of access. Northfield Road, this section right here of Route 5, which is basically the main entryway to what was Zandri's Stillwood Inn and now is Zandri's self-storage area. And then we have a tertiary access that runs on the other side of the car dealership along state property, which is the connector to I-91. So the main building, which was the banquet hall, is here. We have multiple storage buildings in the back, varying sizes, right up to the top of slope, more storage area, buildings, and a few storage areas here on Northford. Lots and lots of parking that was necessary for the banquet hall throughout, and with this proposed project, that's kind of going to go away. So, just to give you an overall idea of the site again before I go into the specific site layout plans. Again, this was the plan we walked into the ZBA with, but again, South Colony is on the bottom of the sheet, Northfield along the left. Here is our proposed building. So it's a 30,000 square foot footprint, as Attorney Laughlin said, and we have oriented it in the same line, basically parallel, perpendicular to the existing building. As you can tell, the property lines aren't exactly perpendicular, so that's one of the reasons why we went for the variance, is if we had to orientate this building to South Colony, it would have been kicked, which would have hindered our flow for traffic, in this area, and been a nightmare as far as emergency services and just general use for the public. So, the project actually consists of 2 pieces. The first is a facelift to the existing building. CubeSmart's coming in, and they want this to have sort of their corporate presence on it. So if anyone is familiar, and I believe most people who live in Wallingford have attended at least one function at Zandri's, we have the existing porte cochere. That's going to be removed. And then there's just going to be a simple facade put on the building right here. And that's the only change to that building, just so it now kind of has that corporate feel to it with respect to CubeSmart. We're going to keep the driveway entrance. We're going to basically put in our pavement markings as per the town staff requirement. And then mainly what's going to happen is we are going to demolish some of the smaller warehouse buildings. And we are going to put in our new 30,000 square foot, 90,000 total square feet of storage. As Attorney Laughlin said, there's both climate-controlled and non-climate-controlled units. The non-climate-controlled units are right along this face. They're your typical garage door opening, access anytime without going in. I believe they are 20 by 40 foot units, and I know you have architecturals in your package. The rest of the units are all inside the building, and we have 3 access points into the building. Our main entrance, which is right here, which actually someone could drive under, unload, and come in. We have an entrance on the west side, a pedestrian access right here, and then we have another pedestrian access here on the east side. And both these pedestrian accesses are connected to the main parking lot by a sidewalk. No access on the north side of the building where we have abutters, no lights on that side, no nothing. So there'll be no light trespass on that side, so we do meet the regulations entirely. There's also, the only utilities to this building are electricity and water for fire protection. There are no bathroom facilities in this building whatsoever. Bathroom facilities for the complex remain in the main building, and that is basically a septic system which is located right here in the parking lot. With respect to the parking, we've cut the number of parking spaces down dramatically. basically, we're going down, existing parking spaces is 230 on the site. We're going down to 161, which is more than what we need for a self-storage facility. The reason why there were so many parking spaces, simply because it was a banquet facility. They needed it, they used it. We luckily do not need those amount of parking spaces. And in doing so, we cut out a great deal of parking and pavement area along the east side. And this was critical, especially from the standpoint of wetlands, because we have a TOA slope right here that goes to our floodplain, that goes to our wetlands. So we were able to give the town, the Wetlands Commission, a full 50-foot upland review area that's now going to be grassed. So our stormwater, we don't have to do anything major on this site because we are reducing stormwater, reducing impervious area. Half of our building, the southern half, the roof runoff is going to be collected and put into an existing stormwater pipe that runs right along the property and discharges just at the toe of the slope. The northern half of the building going to be collected and discharged to grade, which will allow to flow down the side of the building, over land, and infiltrate before reaching the wetlands. All of this together cleans the amount of runoff coming off our site, improves the quality, and lessens the peak flows and the overall volumes on site. So what we're able to do with this, even though it is a large building, we're able to pull back, decrease impervious surface, improve stormwater quality, protect the wetlands, reduce erosion, and reduce flood, and actually I should say increase flood storage because we're putting less water into the floodplain. So that is basically what is happening in a nutshell. And what I will do is I will turn it back over to the commission. Should there be any questions?
Thank you very much. Commissioners with questions? Mr. Cohan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, just one quick question. I am in favor. It looks like a good plan. Is there going to be any signage on that, three-story building?
Yes, and I believe that was in part of the renderings. It does show that the building itself will say CubeSmart on it. It'll be in their corporate colors. I believe that was all submitted as part of the package.
Could you point that out? Because I did not see it. Is it going to be in the, portion of the building facing Route 5, or is it going to be, on the other side in the parking lot?
I believe there is some signage on the Route 5
Oh,
side.
okay.
Okay, on the Route 5 side, but mainly all of it is going to be on the southern. So,
All right, I got it.
all right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All set.
Thank you. Mr. Fitzsimmons?
Thank you. Just a couple questions, and I'm not the least bit shy to ask. So CubeSmart is the colored shaded building in the plan.
CubeSmart is the corporation that is going to run this entire self-storage facility. They are coming in specifically branding the main building, or the new building, I should say, as CubeSmart, and putting the facelift on the existing building, which currently is self-storage, with some of Zandri's catering still in the rear part of the building. So the entire facility is moving to CubeSmart brand. Hopefully that answered your question.
It does, if I could ask a follow-up. So as I'm looking at the plan, site plan layout 2 of 2, storage building, storage building, storage building, those will be part of the application and are part of CubeSmart.
They are existing storage buildings on site. You're talking about these back here, and they will be managed and run, owned by CubeSmart. So it's all one property, all one facility, controlled by one managing company under the CubeSmart brand.
And then behind, my plan looks slightly different than yours. Can you point out on your plan there the storage space for recreational vehicles, boats, and trailers?
That would be right in this location. I basically left a large parking area for that, and I believe this is the car dealership in front, so it is back in the back.
So that is, you're only allotting 10 spaces for recreational vehicles, boats, and trailers on gravel. Is that, did I read that correctly?
That's correct.
Okay. So I guess, and you're right, you said at the very beginning, quite familiar with Zandri's, you know, a lot of times there. So what will the Zandri's build? Zandri's building is going to have CubeSmart in front, but besides self-storage, other stuff is going on in that building?
Yes. Currently, I believe it is Jim Zandri, if I'm not mistaken. He does catering, and he has an agreement in place that for 3 years that he's basically going to run his catering business, continue out of here. Basically, it's going to wean out of this building, and at the end of the 3 years, it is completely going to be self-storage.
Okay, so it's a time horizon of a couple of years before it's fully self-storage.
I believe it is 3 years, yes.
Okay. And then the, no gate control at this location, correct? Because some self-storage places are surrounded by fencing. There's no fencing proposed?
There is
Unless I'm missing that on the plan.
No, there is no fencing proposed. This won't be gated like some other sites, like the one down South Main Street in Yalesville on the way to the bridge over on the left. That one has a gate. This is not going to be like that at all. It's an open facility, allows people to come in when they want, how they want. That's, I believe, the way CubeSmart works with an open site.
And the chairman and I were discussing when you were setting up, we don't see any dumpsters on this plan. Is there a plan for no dumpsters because it's a self-storage?
That is
And everyone's got to bring in their own and take out their own?
That is correct.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hines?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just, it's sort of unusual that we have somebody come in and be proposing more parking spaces than is required. Was there a particular reason for that?
It's not necessarily that I'm proposing more. I'm reducing the number that's on site.
Yeah.
Technically, I guess we could eliminate even more, but the way this site is set up, at this point, with this facility, it's going to be more of a question on how much parking they're going to need going forward in the future. But like I said, we went from 230 down to 161. When it comes to warehousing, yes, we probably could go down even more, but to reduce parking even further, where would I be? I could take some along this side. I mean, I could eliminate some more, but I still need access to the building, both for fire purposes and just general access. So it doesn't really do the site any good to try to keep going down. If the site were to get redeveloped, and I'm going to use the word redeveloped sometime in the future, yes, maybe more of this parking could come out, but at this point, there are no plans for that. It's, as I see it, we've already eliminated 70 parking spaces. Maybe phase 2, if it ever happens, or if anything ever happens, could reduce it more, but at this point, I don't know where I would take parking from that wouldn't hinder some kind of aspect of the site.
Fair enough, thanks.
Thank you. No other commissioners? Mr. Pagini?
No, they addressed my comments during the review process.
All right. Have anything else?
Nothing further. Thank you.
All right, we traditionally ask the public if they have any questions on this application. Seeing none, I'll bring it back. Any other comments from the commissioners?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve a site plan, 1074 South Colony Road, South Colony, 1074 LLC. A site plan request to add approximately 30,000 square foot self-storage building and an existing self-storage business on plans entitled Proposed CubeSmart Climate Control Self-Storage Building dated 9/28/2021 and revised to 2/9/2022, subject to the following conditions of approval. Comments in interoffice memorandum from Eric Kruger, Senior Engineer, Water and Sewer Division, to the Planning and Zoning Department dated November 3rd, 2021. Comments from Town Planner Kevin Panini dated October 20th, 2021. Comments in interoffice memorandum from Aaron O'Hare, Environmental Planner, to the Planning and Zoning Department dated October 18th, 2021, and memorandum dated January 24th, 2022. Comments from the Fire Marshal's Office dated October 14th, 2021, and an erosion and sediment control bond in the amount of $6,000.
Thank you. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor, starting with Mr. Hines.
Yes to approve.
Cohan.
Yes.
Yes.
Simmons.
Yes.
Johnson. Yes. Motion carries. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you for your time.
So we have new business, and that is site plan, outside storage, Iron Horse Equipment, 71 South Turnpike Road, application 20122. Can I ask the applicant to come up and the secretary to read in the correspondence?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have an interdepartmental referral from our fire marshal received January 13th, 2022. A notice of violation from our zoning enforcement officer dated June 22nd, 2021. Correspondence from Kevin Pagini, our town planner, to Benjamin, excuse me if I get this wrong, Fabriello, did I say that correctly? Thank you. Dated January 25th, 2022. A memo from Allison Kapuscinski, our town engineer, to Kevin Pagini, received January 28th, 2022. And a site plan received December 17th, 2021. And I believe that is all.
Thank you very much. Applicant?
Good evening. Again, for the record, my name is Christopher Giuliano, licensed surveyor and professional engineer with the firm of Giuliano Associates, maintain office at 405 Main Street in the Yalesville section of town. I'm here tonight representing Iron Horse Equipment with respect to proposed outside storage at 71 South Turnpike Road. As the commission has heard and probably well aware, the applicant is before you today because of a cease and desist regarding outside storage. Iron Horse Equipment leased a portion of this building, moved in, and immediately started storing their merchandise on the property, within the parking area, within loading areas, and never applied for any type of permission to do so. I believe one of the commissioners on the board was the person who noticed it, brought it to the planning department's attention, and then I was brought in to prepare a site plan to rectify the situation. So I'm going to go up and go through the plan if there's no questions before I do so. All right, for orientation purposes, we have South Turnpike Road here on the bottom of the plan. On the left side is Cook Hill Road. I believe most of the commissioners, if not everyone, is very familiar with this area. But for anyone that isn't, the gas station is located here on the corner, and just on the other side of the gas station is Oakdale. So, Iron Horse Equipment is located right here in the eastern part of the building. They are a tenant one of 5 different tenants, and they occupy about 7,800 square feet of the building. And as I said, they currently are using these 2 areas right here with some temporary fencing for outside storage and a significant area of the parking lot in this general vicinity as well for outside storage. They were issued a cease and desist, as it was mentioned, and what we're proposing is to actually create an outside storage area located on the west side of the property between the building and the building setback line. Now, outside storage is allowed in the CB zone as an accessory use. It can't be put into the side yard setback when it's adjacent to residential zone, and that's why I mentioned that we are between the setback and the building, because that's really all we have available. But we are able to get them approximately 6,000 square feet of storage area. And we're going to be cutting into the hill right in this area with a wall, fence around the wall, and obviously we have the existing dense vegetation that will also screen the storage area along with the building. One of the questions that came up when I initially submitted the plan, and one reason for the revision, was that this site has no line striping, or I shouldn't say no, has very little line striping on the property. There's some existing line striping on the north side here, basically, which crosses over with their north abutter. So the ZO asked for a parking plan. We developed, based upon storage, warehousing, manufacturing, and even retail use of the building, we came up with a required parking count of 78 spaces, and I set out to create a parking plan that actually depicts 78 parking spaces on site. Half, or a little more than half the required parking is located on the south side, and the rest being on the north. I wasn't aggressive with the parking. I didn't try to fit more parking on this site, simply because once I hit my required, I stopped. All right? And I didn't pick every little area out, because again, it wasn't necessary. I didn't need to be aggressive with it. One of the aspects of parking that I need to point out is that we are going to be installing new curbing along the south side of the property. As you can see from the plan, and probably from being out there, the existing pavement does go beyond the property line into the town right-of-way, so we're actually pulling that pavement out, providing the minimum required 6-foot planted buffer along technically one of the front setbacks. And then we're also going to install new landscaping as well along this area in accordance with the regulations. Along the north side, we took a little bit of a different approach. Basically, we have this large painted island that runs pretty much the entire north property line. Instead of actually putting in bituminous pavement, landscaping in that area, we went with the painted island, basically just to delineate the properties and to not hinder any kind of snow removal. I'm not 100% familiar with how both facilities operate, but I have, because this is so open in this area, I have a strange, sneaky suspicion that when tractor trailers do come on these 2 properties, the property line doesn't matter. And I didn't want to hinder that, and I didn't want to have maintenance be an issue for either property owner. So that's why we just went with the delineation using line striping. As far as the outside storage, we will have a gated access on the south side. So if Iron Horse Equipment needs to get something in or out, they can get it from that area. We also have one on the north side. This will allow them to bring equipment in, load it in either direction, and be able to take it out quickly as they need it. That way they won't have to remove a lot of merchandise to get at a particular piece of equipment. And just so it's clear, Iron Horse Equipment basically sells lawn maintenance equipment. lawn mowers, riding lawn mowers, zero-turn mowers, and snow blowers. So that is their business. So it's no farm equipment, they're not an automotive dealership or anything like that. So again, this is allowed under site plan application. So at that point, I'm going to turn it over to the commission to see if there's any specific questions with respect to the application that I can answer for you tonight.
Thank you. Open it up to any commissioners with questions. Any questions? Commissioner Fitzsimmons.
Thank you. This site is currently in violation, correct?
Yes.
And it's been in violation for a year.
I will defer to Kevin on the timing of that. I'm not-
Since June, I believe.
Since the first report, okay. But quite frankly, it's in the CB40 zone. And CB40 zone, commercial districts, doesn't allow outside storage. And I'm looking at 4.6B7, and it does say, you know, let's call it contractor's equipment storage, provided that all material is kept in a building or within an enclosure of suitable height to screen the operation from the street and any nearby residential district, but excluding the bulk storage of cement and concrete mixing and excluding tanks for petroleum products. So I know the plan is to move the storage to the proposed outdoor storage area to the rear, but I'm having a tough time with this because this use and the display area is a problem, because the display area is their sales area. It's no different than a car dealer putting their cars in a parking lot. That's what this is. So it's not outside storage, it's outside retail. That's not a question, I guess it's a statement, but you, go ahead.
Okay.
I mean,
All right, I'm looking at section 4.6, commercial CB districts. And not to argue a point, but section C, the following accessory uses are permitted. And I have number 5, C5, outside storage as per section 6.12. And then we jump into section 6.12, which talks about storage in the side yard or adjacent to residential, and that's where the meat of the regulations are. So that's, as an accessory use, I believe it is. If I'm mistaken, then I missed it, and possibly Kevin missed it, but that's my understanding. Now, my second understanding is that all of the materials that they have outside would go into that storage area. So I agree. They do pull their mowers out, and they have them outside as sales, but I think that has to stop to be in conformance with the regulations. Sales are going to have to take place within the leased area that they have inside the building and use that outside storage area.
you know, if I could through you, Mr. Chairman, and again, I don't want to, you know me well enough and we know each other. I would never consider a car dealer to be a storage facility. It's not storage, it's retail. You know, when Walmart puts their landscaping in the parking lot for a seasonal, it's retail space. It's not storage. They're not storing those plants, they're selling those plants. When a tent goes up to sell fireworks, they're selling the fireworks. You know, so I'm going to split hairs here because these uses on that side of town, and I grew up on that side of town, and I drive by that area, this is what doesn't belong on that corner. It doesn't, to me. Now, I'm just one person up here, but if you read the record, I applaud you and the applicant for trying to correct it, but nothing has changed in a year other than you're here right now. There's been no change, nothing's been removed, nothing's been screened, nothing's been changed. So I want to be And I think I'm very fair. I do. I think I'm very fair because they've had ample notice of they're in violation.
I completely agree with you on that statement. They have done nothing
Yep.
to remove it, to screen it. The only thing they've really done is hire Giuliano Associates to
Good
do the
move.
survey,
Yep.
do the site plan, and try to come up with a way to rectify the situation. It would have been much easier if before they leased, that they had gone and talked to the town to find out about this. You're 100% correct.
Yep.
And I'm not going to dispute, and you are very fair. We've known each other
Yep,
for
I-
30
yeah,
years
yeah.
doing this. So,
Yep.
and I agree, and I understand what you're saying. It is a retail establishment, and they are storing their product outside.
It-
Their product is large. I mean, to store everything that they have inside a building and to be able to sell it inside a building, I don't know if that could be done. Well, I shouldn't say that. It can be done. But the
Right.
size, they would have to have this entire building probably to be able to do that. Just on a side note, the equipment, Power and Sport, Connecticut Power and Sport over on North Main Street Extension. Yes, they have a lot of their stuff inside. And trying to shop in there or go there is difficult. So I understand it, and I appreciate your
Yeah.
comments. I'm just a surveyor and engineer here presenting an application. I'm doing my best, and you are right on many points, and I have no defense of that. So
Do not undersell yourself. You're doing a great job. I just feel, and again, I think everyone here knows me. I mean, I'm not against business, but it's kind of like what doesn't belong, and it just doesn't belong there. And so even looking at the revised plans to try to correct it, it's still, in my opinion, but again, it's a site plan, and it's a site plan that I wanted to see because they're trying to correct a violation. So everything is happening. It's still concerning. When I drive by Taylor Rental, they take everything out in the morning, put it out, and then they bring it all back in. So it's the storage aspect of it that is where I'm struggling, because I can't accept that this is outside storage. It's sales of things that are used outside. And so if I'm the only one that feels that way, that's fine. I'm trying to understand how this works here, because even with the revisions and the retaining wall and moving the proposed outdoor storage area, I wouldn't want to see something similar in this area. But I understand, based upon the records from the planning office, they're limited. They're limited in what they can do. But I mean, this change with putting the fence up affects the parking. It affects the other people who are in this area where all the other uses over in that area, all those uses, everything's stored. I mean, I know some tenants in that area that are in other buildings, and they say, Fitz, we have to keep everything inside. I said, I know. So I get the, how can this guy do this request, which is what prompted me to call the office, because they feel they're following the rules and he's not. So I applaud you for coming in and trying to present it. I'm still personally struggling with it because I can't square it up with the regs. That's an opinion,
let me just point out 4.6B2, which is wholesale trade carried out on entirely within a building, which that would be one solution, or enclosure of suitable height to screen operations from the street and any nearby residence district. I would say that this area, the 6,000 square foot area, which will store their equipment, they could also operate sales out of that area as well. And I think that section then, that would comply with that section. It's not the wholesale lumber, cement, as you mentioned a little bit further down this section, but if, as part of it, they have to deal with their sales in that area, then I think a compromise can be worked out to where they have their area to service, they do have an indoor sales area if they need it, but but they could also use this area for storage of their excess inventory that can't fit inside, and they can also make sales out of that area. That would be probably the happy compromise where, as any compromise, no one is happy walking away from it, but I think it satisfies the regulation to the furthest extent that we can in this particular situation. Because again, Iron Horse Equipment is a tenant. They do have a lease. Shame on them for not coming to the planning department before signing the lease, so they're in a little bit of a predicament as well. So, again, it's about the best compromise that I can offer, is that either sales take place inside or within this area, along with their storage of excess inventory.
If I might, through you, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
just one last comment, and I appreciate that, because, as I said, I'm trying to get my head around this, and again, I respect the fact you're here. I respect the fact they're paying you to correct it. It's storage versus sales, and so I'm still trying to square up when, on Route 5, the Subaru dealer bought the restaurant. You know, they said, we're just going to store vehicles there. This is pre-pandemic. We're just going to store vehicles. We will never sell on that site. We're just going to store it. And this is a situation where they actually are using the area to display, and I cannot square that as being storage. But I appreciate your explanation to help me understand. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Sure. Yeah, I'm just listening to you, I'm on with, but I just would like to go through so that I understand it and maybe everybody else doesn't. In order for this thing to work, right, if you want to buy a piece of equipment from them, you go into their sales room, or, okay, and you arrange for the piece, you arrange to buy what you want. That's fine. Sign the money, everything. Okay. You sign the sales agreement, you pay the money. Okay, now it's up to them to give it to you. So now, if the only thing they can do as part of the sale is once the sale is consummated, they go into their storage area, take the thing out. If they have to service it. But they are not allowed, and I think this goes to your thing, you don't want people in that storage area selling equipment. Am I grasping this correctly?
If I might, through you, I guess that's where I'm having a tough time understanding the transaction. You can't call it storage and then sell stuff at the same site.
Well, but the point is, I'm trying to say this scenario's going on. I want to buy equipment. I go over there, park the car, go in the sales room, says I want this and want that, and they say, yeah, we have this in stock. We can sell it to you. We have a meeting of the minds. Here's my credit card. Give me the goods. Okay. Now, what all they do, they go into that storage area, and they, as you say, they just take the goods out. They have to service it. Maybe they bring it back into this service area. But what they can't do is they can't say, yeah, we got one from you. Come out in our storage area. We'll show you what we got. That way, if they're doing that, then as I'm listening to you, that is where you get, say, understandably upset, because they're using the storage area as a sales area. Do I understand that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, and Ms. Giuliano, is that your understanding?
Well, that is my understanding of what Mr. Fitzsimmons was talking about, and playing devil's advocate, I go back to section 4.6.B2, because it actually says the wholesale trade within an enclosure area. So I do believe, as you read that, they can sell stuff out of a building, they can sell out of an enclosed area. That's my understanding of the way the regulation reads. Again, I believe this commission has the authority to put whatever conditions on an approval that you might deem appropriate. I would also think, being a business owner, that if it was my situation and I had a rack with lawnmowers on it, I don't know if I necessarily want people walking back in there just for liability purposes. But that's me. I'm a little conservative at times, 99.9% of the time. But, so I agree that having people go in there probably isn't the best thing for purchasing, but I don't think the regulations prohibit it as they read. But again, this commission has the authority to put conditions on an approval that they deem necessary for the betterment of the town. So I will leave myself and the application at your mercy. If that's what you decide, that's what the applicant will have to live with.
Commissioner Allenson?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I think I understand the dichotomy that's here from Commissioner Fitzsimmons and from the applicant. But just, Mr. Giuliano, just so that I understand, under 4.6 B2, you're saying wholesale trade. If I walked in, could I buy a lawnmower?
You could.
So how is that wholesale?
Probably right in that respect, if you're holding you to the difference between wholesale and retail. I don't know if that's what the regulations were meant, or if there is actually a difference when it comes down to it, but you could be.
I mean, I didn't write this section either,
I
so.
We're all trying to interpret it, I understand.
And I'm not trying to give you a hard time. I'm
No,
just.
I appreciate it.
I understand the semantics here and the constraints that we're under, and I'm just trying to find something, find the hook here, and I don't know.
I completely understand.
That's
We're
right.
all
Thank
kinda
you.
figuring this out and seeing what's fair in a compromise.
Commissioner Hines?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Procedurally, I'm a little unclear, and maybe if somebody can help clarify it. There's already been a determination that what is going on there is in violation of the regulations, correct?
Correct.
So if that has been the determination, I don't understand what we're doing here at this point. One would think that if the claim is, well, we're really not in violation, we disagree with how you are interpreting the regulations, where would the applicant go in that situation? Do they come to us, or do they go to the ZBA?
As far as the I guess he can.
I believe, I understand. Let me clarify why they're in violation. Maybe that'll help. First of all, they don't have permission right now for outside storage. So that's part one. Part two is they are storing equipment in the parking area. Again, so they are reducing the amount of parking below what is required. So that's violation number 2. So if the approach was, we think we can do this regardless of what the regulation says, yes, I think we could go to ZBA to ask for a variance, but without any real hardship, as you are well aware, hardship in the land, we should get denied flat out. So the only other option is to come and create a outdoor storage area where they can now put their inventory and get it out of the parking area, get it out of the front yard setback in the front of the building here, and put it back here. So now it is no longer in violation for parking, the front yard setback, and with this commission's approval, we would actually be able to have outside storage, and that would take care of the violation. I think the sales and retail is a whole nother aspect that Mr. Fitzsimmons has brought up, and I'm more than willing to try to work something out, as I said, in the best interest of the applicant and the town on that respect. But the one thing I would hope that we can agree with is, let's get the inventory out of the parking area and into a storage area, into an outdoor storage area that is specifically meant for that purpose. And that takes care of the violations, which I think will hopefully make the planning department happy, and then we can deal with the retail portion.
And I appreciate that answer. But the reason why I asked the question is because as the discussion was going on earlier, I took a look at the notice of violation. And what it actually says is, in the first paragraph, it makes reference to section 6.12, but then it says, for the unpermitted display and sales of merchandise, equipment outside. So the way I read that is that there's already been a finding that what is going on there is the unpermitted display and sales of merchandise. And no matter what you do here, if the department has already determined that you're in violation because there's sales of merchandise occurring outside, I don't see how this addresses what the department has already determined to be a violation under the regs. And if your claim is that, well, there's really not outside sales going on, this is just outside storage, and there's been a misinterpretation, isn't your remedy to go to the ZBA as opposed to coming to us, if that is your claim? Let's assume everything that you do here now cures all the other site plan type issues. The department has still determined that what's going on there is outdoor sales or outside sales under the regs, which is a violation of the regs. To me, procedurally, the answer is you go to the ZBA for that interpretation issue, not to us.
I could
Am I wrong on that?
I can answer that. So I spoke to Mr. Giuliano about this, and I asked him, specifically as part of this application, whether or not, they're moving all their equipment to outside storage and discontinuing sales outside. My interpretation of the reg is that if they want to continue outside sales in this area, it would be a special permit use. So they'd have to go for a special permit for automobile, truck, farm, motorcycle, and related equipment dealerships. So it was those two options. He stated that this would be just outside storage, and they would be conducting their retail business indoors.
And assuming that that's the case, I don't know how you police that. Like, let's assume that we take the applicant at their word. I don't know how you police that. Once you approve this, I mean, there's no policing that afterwards. And that's, maybe that's a problem with the regs, but I just don't see how you can confirm what's going on there once this is approved. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Fitzsimmons.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess I want to, there's nothing I leave unsaid. I would maybe ask if we can ask the applicant to take the feedback that we've discussed, go to their client and let them know the issues. As I said, I said at the beginning, I'm happy you're here to try to cure a problem. I just don't know if this is the right cure. But at the same time, I think you've heard all of us. I think everyone has been on record trying to see how it could, I hate to use the term fit the regs, but I think, and again, as I said, I appreciate your honesty, your candor. It's difficult, and I have no choice but to compare this applicant to any other use in town, because it appears they're getting an unfair advantage over other folks. And so that's life, right? But at the same time, my job representing the town is, and I'm not against business, I'm for business, obviously, and I'd like this to work in the right place. So I don't know how it could work here, but at the same time, through you, Mr. Chairman, is it possible we can continue this and ask the applicant's representative to circle back with the client to figure out what they can do to
That was actually my suggestion,
If I
too.
may, the issue, as I understand it, is really with the outside display and sales. That's my
for
understanding.
me, yes.
And I know Kevin mentioned about section requiring a special permit, and my reply was, we are not automobile dealerships, we're not farm equipment, we're not tractors, we're not motorcycles. We're none of those. So that's why I didn't think the special permit necessarily fit. As far as getting the equipment inventory, as far as getting the inventory into the storage area, I think if the commission, and this is up to the commission, if we can get the site plan approved for that, would still not allow outdoor display or outdoor sales. I could then come back, meet with Kevin. If it has to be a special permit for those aspects, we can then come back with a designated area for that. Limited time, whatever staff thinks is appropriate. But I think getting the violations done, taken care of, and moving this along, I think that's probably the biggest aspect of why I'm here tonight. If we can get this approved, again, knowing that they can't, as I think we kind of can all agree, outdoor display and outdoor sales are not appropriate at this location under what we have now. We can then come in with a second application for the special permit if that's what it takes, designate area, specify how many pieces of equipment can be out for how long, however it is, to hold up this part of the application which fixes 80%, 90% of the problem, whatever it may be. I think moving forward with this is at least the right way to go. At least then the condition, no outside sales, no outside display, at least they can now start to move forward, dig out the area, start the construction, get the equipment out of the public eye. And at least that way bring the site into compliance instead of leaving it here for another month or two while we deal with this.
Just on that issue alone, I given lease that. And as I'm thinking of this, we can sit down, and I've been on, this is my third land use board, where we all sit down, and it's all sweetness and life of what we're going to do. But somehow I wonder, over the course of time, isn't it inevitable that I'm coming in, the person, retail customers coming in or commercial customers coming in, they want to see the goods, they want to take a look, they say, fine, well, we're not supposed to go into the shed, take people into the storage area, but they do, and the thing is that then as Mr. Fitzsimmons drives by, he sees the people inside, he sees the thing out there, and he says, oh, this is not right. And how do we enforce it? Because one of the problems that we've talked about in many other instances here is how do you enforce things?
Get closer to me.
Oh, certainly, okay. Just to repeat, is that Mr. Himes has raised a very good point, and it's the policing of this agreement. Because we can have an agreement, and it'll be all sweetness, and I love it. And I've been on 3 land use boards. This is my 3rd one. And it's always sweetness in life at this table. And then you go out, and anybody with a bulldozer or a chainsaw, all bets are off. And the thing is, something like this, that inevitably, somebody's going to want to see the thing, what they're going to buy, not they don't want to look at it, or they want to see the video or from the catalog, and the next thing you know, we are, this space that is supposedly for storage only is part of the sales place. So the thing is either to get a permit in some manner that allows that on the site, but I think you got to, so I don't think that we should, number one, approve this thing now and then work on something later. I think, we can't take an action unless we can resolve the whole mess and let the man continue on with his business.
Thank you. Mr. Pagini, you have any comments from your desk?
No, I just want to say that all of the allowed uses for site plan approval are allowed indoors, whereas anything under special permit is outside. So related equipment dealership is specifically what I was mentioning to Mr. Giuliano.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Cohan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I've listened to all the comments from everybody, and yeah, a little bit confusing on this application. And quite honestly, yes, I would be in favor of, not moving forward with this tonight until the applicant has been advised of our concerns. With that being said, while this discussion was taking place, I was looking at the recommended motion, and item 4, I think, talks about, the main issues at hand. So what I have in my mind, if I had made the motion to, go ahead with this, I would have reworded number 4 to say, and I think this is what we want the applicant to understand, and, I'll say it and then, correct me if I don't get this right, but I would have said that no items remain outdoors on display for sale at any time. And then the second part, all merchandise/items must be screened and stored in the indicated outside storage area, and no sales will be allowed from that outside storage area. Does that kind of fit, what we're really after here? But again, that being said, I think Mr. Giuliano understands the commission's intent, and yeah, I don't think we should move forward with this, approving this right now. And I'm just wondering, are we collecting fines? I mean, they've been fined, $150 per day since June. Have we actually collected anything?
We don't have the ability to fine, but it does go on the, I believe it gets a lien. I don't know all the legalities behind it, but there are, actual fines being levied, I believe.
So to me, that should be, an incentive to, do what they can since June to, rectify the situation. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Allenson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm sorry, I don't mean to belabor this at all, and this has been said a couple of times. I'm in favor of business. We're all in favor of business in this town. It's not this. We're happy that they're here trying to remedy this. I just want to give you my interpretation of our regulations, which is different than what you've proposed, and I hope that will help. So from reading our regulations and trying to find where it fits the application today, in 4.6 D10, which is under the special permit for area, I think the issue is that it's missing a serial or an Oxford comma in how they made the list. And I think that's where the confusion came in. One comma, I think, would make all of the difference, where motorcycle, comma, and related equipment dealerships. In other words, equipment dealerships that are similar and deal with equipment. That would have solved all of it, and my interpretation is somebody missed their Oxford comma in it, and I know it sounds silly,
That's not correct English.
but as far as it comes down to, I think that the application that I would, given the plan that you've presented tonight, the application that I would be comfortable with is if you were here under that section, we'd be having a different conversation, and I could find a way to make it work. I think under the site plan section, I cannot. So I don't know if that helps in going back to your client, but that's where I am.
I'll ask one question with respect to that, then come back next month under the special permit, but with that, we can designate an outdoor area for display and sales. That would be allowed. Is that correct?
Under special permit, yes.
Under special permit.
Yes.
And I just want to make sure that when I come back with a revised plan, I'll be showing outdoor sales and storage area, and I just want this commission to take note of that, because I don't want you to come back, and all of a sudden, because I came back with a special permit, I'm showing that, and I've upset the commission because you were expecting me to come back pretty much with the same plan, but under special permit. I'm going to change it slightly, and I'm going to probably have an area over here that's noted for outdoor display and sales area, where equipment can be put out during the day, displayed, sold. At the end of the day, it would move in either inside or into the storage area, because that's really what that special permit application allows. And I just want to make sure that we are okay with outdoor display and sales on this piece of property. Because I'm kind of getting the feeling that Mr. Fitzsimmons might not be, at least from his prior comments. So I don't want to have an argument next month on interpretation of the regulations, because as I asked Kevin when I looked at them, that would be allowed under the special permit, whereas it's not allowed under the site plan. So that's why I made the other statement earlier about approving this plan to deal with the violation, get it done. And if the applicant wants outdoor sales, they would come back at a later time with specific application for that use. Because if I combine it, we're going to have some, I don't think we're going to get past this issue, because I think, Mr. Fitzsimmons, I don't mean to speak for you, but I think you have a problem with outdoor sales and display. Special permit would allow that. So saying no to that aspect puts us right back here at the site plan. Gets everything out of the parking lot into a storage area, and that's my main goal. I will go with whatever direction this commission wants, but I want to be basically open and honest about what's going to happen next month if this commission directs me to come back as a special permit. We're doing outdoor sales and display. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. I'm not going to play any games. You guys know me, so I want everything out on the table. So.
Commissioner Hines.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To me, I wonder whether it makes more sense to table the present application until we can have some further discussion as to how we interpret these regulations. Otherwise, we're asking the applicant to come back to us without any agreement potentially on our side as to how we are interpreting our own regulations. Because under the current proposal, I agree with Mr. Giuliano that if we are not all on the same page and he comes back with a special permit application next month, we may have some members up here that say, this isn't a special this isn't a special permit application. So I think what might make more sense is whether we table this before we ask them to come back with a special permit application if we're not sure that we're all on the same page. That's just my suggestion.
Commissioner Fitzsimmons.
I would tend to agree with Commissioner Himes, and I say this with all due respect. I mean, I'm one voice up here. I expressed my concern on this. Unfortunately or fortunately, you know, this is not my day job. So I defer to the staff to guide folks on best. Mr. Giuliano, you know, as we say each other, we've known each other. I know what I think should happen, but I'm just one. As I said, I think any type of activity, any type of movement to improve this and get it squared is positive. But at the same time, I would side with the majority. I can't act on this as is, but I think you'd have to discuss with staff the best way to go. That's.
I would absolutely agree with that. You know, we look to continue this and work with the staff. You know, I have probably just two very quick questions, and that is, where the storage is, that's pretty significant. So not where the storage is now, but where you're proposing it, that's a pretty high cliff. What are we talking?
It is a slope. It's,
To get to, and why I'm interrupting a little bit, it's a unique piece of property. So I want to make sure we understand. You've got Cook Hill Road, which basically is probably 20 feet, maybe 30 feet above the parking lot on that end. Maybe I'm
More than that.
It's more than that. So you've got a pretty significant buffer, if you will, for that storage area in the back.
correct.
So one of the positives to this
Yes.
is it's in the back. This has nothing to do with the applicant. I don't even know if it has anything to do with the owners. But there are cars there that I don't even know if they're registered, they're abandoned, it's not a junkyard. And I've talked to the town planner about it, but you know, to the right, which would be the north, there's right in front, there's 4 vehicles. One of them's a van that is, I think the engine's in the back from rear-ending somebody. And I don't know whose it is. Those are just obviously eyesores, which ultimately does what? Creates more people looking even to your applicant. So if there's any way you can relay that dissatisfaction, do it. But I will commend doing the storage in the back.
Thank you.
So continue this.
Yep.
Work with our town staff. And can I ask for action?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to continue application 220-21, site plan, self-storage facility, I'm sorry. I'd like to make a motion to continue application 201-22, site plan outside storage, Iron Horse Equipment, 71 South Turnpike Road, to our March meeting.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, all in favor with aye?
Aye.
Nays? Abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Item number 4, site plan auto parts store, Bowler Engineering for O'Reilly Auto Parts, 320 South Colony Street, application 202-22. If I can ask the applicant to come to the desk, and can I ask the secretary to record all correspondence that we've received?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have an interdepartmental referral from our fire marshal received January 13th, 2022. We have correspondence from Kevin Pagini, our town planner, to O'Reilly Automotive Stores, care of Bowler, dated January 25th, 2022. We have a memorandum from Allison Kapuscinski, our town engineer, to Kevin Pagini, our town planner, dated January 28th, 2022. An inter-office memorandum from Eric Kruger, senior engineer, to Kevin Pagini, town planner, dated February 7th, 2022. An interdepartmental referral from...
My son is excited, yeah.
I have no idea who this is from.
That is very interesting.
I know the song and everything.
I'll get
Miss-
you keep going.
Mr. Pagini, it's number E, if you have any idea. And correspondence from, to the town of Wallingford, to, I think specifically
Might be well.
to Eric Kruger, from Chaz Evans, PE, dated, date of receipt, February 11th, 2022. And correspondence to Kevin Pagini from Chaz Evans, date of receipt, February 11th, 2022. And correspondence to Allison Kapuscinski from Chaz Evans, date of receipt, February 11th, 2022. And
Excuse me, that's from the fire marshal.
that is the fire marshal.
Of course it is.
He usually puts FM there.
FMO?
Yeah, we might want to make sure that he is a little clearer in whatever that is.
I mean, I had a bunch of interdepartmental referrals from the fire marshal that I could tell. This one, this one was a mystery. I'm sorry. Anyways, it was received February 9th, 2022. That's all of the correspondence. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am Chaz Evans, licensed PE for Bowler Engineering. We have our offices at 65 LaSalle Road in West Hartford, Connecticut. Here, on behalf of the applicant O'Reilly Auto Parts, I'm currently proposing a auto parts store at 320 South Colony Road. Property is currently a residential property, a two-story house, detached garage, and otherwise a mostly wooded site. From my understanding, I believe there's a family member of the property owner currently living there prior to closing. The property is zoned commercial, CA12. The parking proposed is 35 spaces where 29 are required. And there's a 6-foot residential landscape buffer required on the rear of the property and on the side, which we are maintaining the existing wooded buffer to the rear and proposing a dual line of arborvitaes up against the residential property to the right, plan right. The auto parts store is a 7,225 square foot building, 85 by 85 foot box. This plan increases impervious coverage by slightly under 19,000 square feet, but maintains the runoff from that impervious coverage by an underground stormwater detention system underneath the parking areas that provides the needed peak rate control as well as water quality volume as required by the Connecticut Stormwater Manual. Per our comments we received from town staff, the plans have been updated to show snow storage areas as well as a 6-foot vinyl fence for headlight and noise barriers. And I'd open the floor to any questions, and I can go up to highlight any areas in the plans that the commission would like.
All right, I'll bring it back to the commissioners with questions. Commissioner Hines?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One of the questions I had is, what types of deliveries are going to be made to this store? Is it going to be by like a box truck or tractor trailer, or, because I don't see anywhere in the plan, is there a particular delivery area within the
Sure.
plan?
So, as required by code, we had to show a 15 by 30 foot delivery area. That area is actually, and I can come up.
Yeah.
The microphone's right there.
Is it the top?
The delivery area is shown in this white hatch parallel to trash enclosure, and you'll see there's actually a striped area here. O'Reilly's, for those of you that don't know, their business model is actually 60% retail, 40% wholesale. So they do a lot to local auto body shops and oil change facilities. So this is actually a dealer door that drives up. So deliveries would come through the dealer door, as well as if you had a local mechanic that would come by to pick up bulk supplies. They would typically, the mechanics would park in the parking spots, slide in the dealer door and bring the equipment. But yeah, large box trucks are the largest anticipated vehicle.
Okay, so no tractor trailers.
If it's a small, you're not having the WB67 large cab. Again, it's a large box truck, whether that's classified as small tractor trailer. Typically the SU30, SU40 foot box trucks.
My only concern is that there's enough room there for those types of trucks to maneuver in and out of there.
Correct.
Thank you. Any other commissioners? All right. Town planner, Kevin Pagini. Any comments on your end?
No, I believe he addressed all my comments.
All right, thank you. Tradition that we have anybody from general public that would like to speak. Seeing none, I'll bring it back and ask the commission what they'd like to do.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve site plan O'Reilly Auto Parts, 320 South Colony Street. Site plan requests to demolish an existing single-family dwelling and construct a 7,225 square foot retail store building and a parking lot with 35 parking spaces on plans entitled O'Reilly Auto Parts, dated January 5th, 2022, subject to the following conditions of approval. Comments in interoffice memorandum from Eric Kruger, Senior Engineer, Water and Sewer Division, to Planning and Zoning, dated February 7th, 2022. Comments from Allison Kapuscinski, Town Engineer, dated January 28th, 2022. Comments from the Fire Marshal's Office, dated January 12th, 2022. Comments from Kevin Pagini, Town Planner, dated January 25th, 2022, and an erosion and sediment control bond in the amount of $15,000.
Thank you. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor, starting with Commissioner Hines?
Yes.
Cohen?
Yes.
Fitzsimmons?
Yes.
Allenson?
Yes.
And yes, motion carries. Thank you very much. Have a
you,
nice
Commissioner.
night. All right. We have item number 5, site plan Tractor Supply, 801 North County Road, bond release, application 203-18. Is there any action that's needed on that, Kevin?
No, not at this time. I'm still waiting for the springtime to see if the trees are alive.
Okay. Sounds good. How about the annual report?
I thought that was included in your packets, but I guess it's not.
Yeah, I don't have it.
I could send that to you tomorrow.
Okay.
I had given it to my secretary, but I guess she didn't include it.
Okay. Administrative approval, there was one, change of use. Sedaris, 1255 South Broad Street, 301-22. How about the ZBA decisions on, for January 19, 2022? Anybody have any questions on that, or the ZBA notice for February 2022? February 22nd, 2022. Anything on any of those? This Commissioner Fitzsimmons.
Question through you, Mr. Chairman, to the town planner. Number 4 in the ZBA application is Northfield Road. What is the non-conforming use out there? Is that True Blue Environmental?
Yes, I believe it is, but I can double check for you.
All right. It's more a curiosity, because if I could, through you, Mr. Chairman, number one, front yard setback of 0, where 0 exists, and then 10 feet to expand a front porch and add an addition. I mean, 0. Would the ZBA consider going to 0 for a front yard setback?
I don't know.
Amy's not here, I don't say.
You got anything?
Just a
Commissioner Allenson?
Just a question on the upcoming ZBA. There's a special exception request for the daycare center. Is that just because they're trying to run it in a residential?
Yes.
Do you have any idea on how much traffic that's going to generate? So I've seen daycare centers that have been given special exceptions in residential districts in other towns, and it's generated a significant amount of traffic to the point where the applicant has then had to create parking on
Right.
their lot, which has then caused a neighborhood devaluation because of the way it looks in the frontage of the lot. In other words, it spiraled out of control.
Right.
So I don't, in the right applicant, right business, it might make sense, right location, but I don't know where that is. So I just have a little bit of concern on that.
Sure, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. How about the zoning enforcement report? Anything on that?
She's been redoing it, so she now has a current Excel sheet which reflects the current violations, the open violations, and then she put the legal referral reports as well as a separate attachment, and then she has the open current zoning complaint report still there, but it reflects the removal of 40-plus records of resolved closed violations. So she's currently reworking it. So this is kind of the draft form. This isn't anything set in stone yet, but she's been working on sort of redoing it to reflect a lot of things that aren't relevant anymore.
That's why I want to
Is that something close to what you were
Yeah.
looking for?
The question I have is there one that we can have that says, hey, since our last meeting, here's the one, these are new ones? Yeah, chronologically.
I believe it's the draft of database in development for all open violations. So I don't know if she's gotten to the monthly report as of yet. She was really reworking the access file.
This one you're talking about, right?
Yes.
really old.
I guess I was looking for any of the new ones.
I think, let's see. Okay, so the first one is the current zoning complaints.
Yeah, this is good. The legal referrals is good.
Then the last one, I believe, is the legal referrals. So,
You don't know what happened.
yeah, so there's some new ones on, that,
Kevin, any chance she can maybe come to one of the next meetings and just maybe go over this with us?
sure. Yeah, I could have her come next time.
I find that helpful. I don't
Yep.
know if the other commissioners
Agreed.
do. All right. If you could, please ask her. Yes. Is there anything else? If not, I know what I'm going to be asking for.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn our meeting.
Thank you. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone.